Hello folks, welcome to my world of stuff. I'm in the cinema room. It's time for a retro movie treat today. It's the day the earth stood still.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Drew Pearson. We bring you this special radio television broadcast in order to give you the very latest information on an amazing phenomenon, the arrival of a space ship in Washington. The Army has taken every precaution to meet any emergency which may develop. Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I think something is happening.
I came here to give you these facts. But if you threaten to extend your violence, this earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
But he's a robot. Without you, what could he do?
There's no limit to what he could do. He could destroy the earth.
All vehicles, close in. Let's go.
Hi there, welcome back. It is me, freshly shorn. Got rid of all my face fuzz because no longer had the need for it because I was growing it for some filming I was doing a couple of weeks ago, so I finally got on to taking it off. So yeah, this video is at the request of Mr. Rob Vanham. Thank you, Rob. Here's your name. Thank you very much for that. I do appreciate your input. Yeah, I took a look at The Day the Earth Stood Still, a classic 1951 science fiction film directed by Robert Wise and starring Michael Rennie as Klaatu, a benevolent, beneficent alien who comes down to Earth to deliver a message and a warning for the human race, a warning which sadly we've not heeded in the decades since. This is a genuine science fiction classic, and more than that, it's a genuine movie classic. A lot of the 1950s science fiction films just tended to be rather cheesy creature features, and as much as I love films like them, and I can enjoy, giant mantises and giant crabs and all this stuff, they're sort of not exactly exploitative, but they're just silly sort of science fiction films, although they had a genuine reflection of the fears of the time. Of course, this was just post-World War II and post-Hiroshima, and the nuclear bomb and the fear of the big explosion, the big bang was very, very relevant. And a lot of these films did prey on that sort of thing, and that sort of fear of the unknown with radiation and the effects of radiation and how it could affect the flora and fauna of society. But The Day the Earth Stood Still is a very different sort of film, because it is very philosophical, very thoughtful, very serious, and in some ways quite a domestic film. I was thinking that as I watched it yesterday. It isn't about spectacle, it isn't about explosions and massive special effects, although there are some very, very impressive visuals in it, even to today's standards. But it's a film that tells a simple story, but it's a cautionary tale. If you've not seen it, and the first thing I'd say is don't get this one. If you've not seen it, don't get this one. This is the rancid Keanu Reeves remake, which came out a few years ago, which is shockingly bad. Don't go there. But we're going back to 1951, and again, you sort of think, wow, this was made within 6 years of World War II ending, and the 40s. It's funny, things like the 50s and 60s, for me, I suppose, born at the tail end of the 50s, it seems like recent memory. The 50s doesn't seem a long time ago, if you know what I mean. It's something about the word the 50s, but the 40s, that does sort of seem, that seems like a long way back in history, if you sort of see what I mean. You probably don't. But no, I think that if you think that this was made not long into the 50s, it's a very, very sophisticated film. Basically, it's the story of Klaatu, an alien who travels to Earth in a genuine flying saucer. The beginning of the film is just terrific. It's classic stuff, as this object is seen coming towards the Earth, and then it comes down over Washington, and this you've seen the image, the classic image of the saucer landing outside Washington, disgorging this alien in a spacesuit, Klaatu, played by Michael Rennie, and his huge 8-foot robot Gort, who has extraordinary destructive powers in his visor. He's come to Earth, and he wants to gather together the leaders of Earth's countries, which of course is as impossible then as it is now. He's accidentally shot by a trigger-happy soldier and taken to hospital. He leaves the hospital quite easily, even though they try to keep him in. And to try and get his message across and try to find out more about humanity, he takes up residence in a boarding house, which has got a motley collection of people living in it, including a young widow and her son. And he sort of becomes friendly with the son, not like that, and finds out a little bit more about society. And he eventually meets up with a learned scientist called Professor Barnard, played by Sam Jaffe. And he reveals the truth of himself. But when he's in the boarding house, he calls himself Mr. Carpenter, a businessman who's just away from home for a while. And he eventually, via the scientist, manages to organise a meeting of the great scientists of the world by the spaceship, so he can impart his message. But of course, as the film wears on, the truth about his origins sort of comes out. He's not Mr. Carpenter, he's this strange creature from space. And of course, as is the way of things, the authorities get very jumpy and they get very nervous, and again, he gets shot. And it ends up with him back at the spaceship delivering his message to the human race, which is that you're getting too aggressive, you're being watched by intelligences from beyond the stars, and you've got to watch what you're doing or you'll be wiped out. So yeah, a hugely cautionary tale and a very intelligent, very sophisticated script. Watching it again yesterday, I was just struck by how intelligent it is for a film that's 70 years old now, incredibly. Much as I like a lot of modern science fiction films with all the bang and flash that they can deliver these days, you don't get scripts like this anymore that make you think and have something to say, because it isn't all now about the visuals. It is all about the spectacle. And I understand that audience expectations are a little different, but it's just nice to think that back then we could have films like that. And of course we've got them now. We can look at them now and appreciate them now and sort of wistfully wish that you could have films like this today. I suppose probably Denis Villeneuve's Arrival is the closest we've had to this sort of thoughtful science fiction in the last few years. And Blade Runner 2042, although I find the Blade Runner films a little bit tedious. But no, sorry, I thought I had a little visitor in the cinema room there. But no, I just think that The Day the Earth Stood Still stands up incredibly well. The actual title refers to a demonstration of his power. Klaatu demonstrates to the human race his abilities in an extraordinary way by basically cutting off the power across the world for 30 minutes, which causes understandable chaos. And there's some really well realised scenes of cities across the world literally ground to a halt for half an hour because there's no power for the cars, there's no power for machines, factories. It's an extraordinary display of the abilities of this man from beyond space. I have to mention Gort, of course, the classic robot creature. This great towering thing that has this extraordinary destructive power hidden in his visor. Made of solid metal, but he does crease when he walks, I noticed. Perhaps that's a futuristic metal thing. One of the capabilities of metal from beyond space, that it bends when you walk in it. But the spaceship design is fantastic. But it's just a classic science fiction flying saucer. Gort is one of the classic robot creatures, this great implacable mass of steel. You've got great supporting characters. Michael Rennie's first starring role, and he's got that sort of gaunt look. He just looks like an extraterrestrial, and his mannerisms, the way he walks, and the way the film is shot beautifully by Robert Wise with fantastic use of shadows. There's one really striking shot where Klaatu arrives at the boarding house, and he's sort of in darkness, and they look up at him, and there's this shadowy figure there. It's really eerie, strikingly done. So it's just a magnificent film, and of course it gave us the legendary Klaatu Barado Nikto catchphrase, which is what Klaatu uses to control the robot, particularly towards the end of the film. Just a great film. If you've never seen it, must seek it out. I'm sure it's available online. It's certainly available on Blu-ray, DVD, and as a physical media person, I recommend you pick up the Blu-ray because there's some nice supporting features on there. It's just an absolute classic, and time has not dimmed its power in any way, and there's not a lot of films you can really say that about. So hugely recommended. Thanks once again, Rob, for recommending that one. That's a really good one for the retro movie review feature. If anybody's got any ideas, I've got a couple of other ideas that have been thrown my way, which I will be working on soon. So yeah, pop down in the comments below any ideas for retro genre movies. Don't even have to be genre movies, to be honest. It could be any movie at all, any classical movie which you'd like to see me rant about for a few minutes. So that's me for now. I will be back very soon with some more content. Apologies for not having been around this week. Been a few bits and pieces going on, just haven't had time to sit and do anything. So hopefully there will be stuff coming up soon. There'll be a Shang-Chi review at the end of the week, obviously, because that was coming out. Can't wait for that. And the following week, I'm going away for a few days. One of the places I'm visiting will be of interest to Doctor Who fans. So I will probably do a little on-location video when I'm at a certain place that will be familiar to Doctor Who fans. Anyway, that's me for now. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this and you enjoy this sort of rambling content. Thumbs up and all that sort of stuff. Leave a comment, especially. That's very important. And until next time, hey kids, keep taking the stuff.